their technology careers. Hello!
Oh my goodness, was that not a great example of my life every day?
Right.
Technology.
Technology is our best friend and our foe at the same
time. Absolutely. So I'm sorry that I dropped off, but it was a pleasure to meet you the other day as well.
Definitely, not a problem at all. And I was just sharing with the audience your amazing background, being a Chief Digital Technology Officer at VFC, and the great partnership that Women Who Code has with VFCorp. And so with that, would you like to tell me a little bit more about, and tell our audience a little bit more about yourself and your role at VFC?
Sure. Yeah, no, super excited to be here, and nice to meet you all virtually, and hope I can meet some of you one of the live events that we'll have down the road. So yeah, I joined VFC about 2.5 years ago. Came in as the Chief Digital and Technology Officer, so overseeing everything from our commerce to in-store to infrastructure, cloud, security. I pretty much run the gamut. Desktop support. So suffice to say, I have a very, very busy job, especially this time of year, super busy for us. But VF is a portfolio company, so we are, some big brands that we own are the North Face, Vans, Timberland, Dickies, Kipling, Eastpak, Napa Perry, and I could go on and on, but really big, complex global company. And my team basically services the technology needs and digital needs of all those brands. So really exciting job and exciting place to be.
Sounds awesome, and so much goodness entailed in there. Can you share a little bit about how you got to your journey to this current role? A little bit about what that looked like.
Yeah, so like sharing with you the other day. So I am definitely not a linear learner or doer in life. Actually, I started in finance years ago. Spent about 24 years in the financial services industry. My background was finance. And then fell upon a role in our technology organization through a financial exercise. And I was saying the other day, I found my passion in life. I fell in love with technology, and I never looked back. I have so much respect for my colleagues in finance, but I learned, for me, I'm just a very passionate and curious person with a lot of energy, and I just needed something different. So I kind of came about it in a roundabout way and stayed in technology, then moved my way into more the digital side of the house. And and then fast forward, here I am today. Really excited to be where I am today.
That's awesome. I love hearing folks' different journeys and how there's so many different avenues to get into this amazing space. But I think the one thing that always resonates with everyone is that they stumbled into it, or they started programming and they fell in love, right?
Exactly.
They just attracted to the different aspects of the technology industry. It's definitely fun and exciting. So you mentioned this digital transformation, being the Chief Digital Technology Officer. What does a digital transformation entail? What does that look like for VFC?
A lot of hours. A lot of work. It's interesting. So when I joined VFCorp, we were already on a digital transformation journey. And I think what's happened, and especially if you fast forward to COVID, it really has accelerated. We watch our consumers, we watch the way that they engage, and it's just been very transformative at a velocity that I don't think any of us anticipated. Mm-hmm. So a lot of that is just working with the different brands to understand their different consumer needs, because every brand's a little bit different. What's common is you start to see a lot of commonality in what the consumers are doing to engage with the brands. So my job is really to help serve the brands with the capabilities they need to be able to engage with their end consumer. So it's really exciting. But I would say one thing that I talk a lot about, even at VF, it's not just about the technology. Transformation is based on a lot of things. And technology, and I don't want to say this because sometimes I feel like maybe it's not a good way to talk about it, but the technology aspect is almost the easiest part. I think the harder changes are the people and process that have to change along with that. And then encompassing all of that is really culture. You need energy. We had a consulting company that came in, and it talked a lot about you need to get a group of individuals that really become your champions of this change and really affect the way we live, eat, and breathe, the changes we need to make, and having that impact, that forces transformation more than anything else. So I pride myself, we've done a lot of that within our technology organization. I'm a very high energy person, but really of empowering our associates, and it's a fail safe environment. Like, we're going to try things, we're not going to succeed all the time, and you just got to have that mindset of learning and curiosity and passion to kind of push the envelope in many ways. So it's interesting, but I think I'd come back to people, process, and technology is really what drives transformation.
That's amazing. And I've heard from your coworkers and peers that you joining in this digital transformation has had a really large impact on the culture shift in adopting that digital transformation. Are there any, concrete things that you're doing to encourage that culture adoption? Maybe focusing on the way you collaborate, or I think you talked about a little bit about more focus on product management.
Yes. Yeah. So a couple things. So the scientific side, we've instituted a product management framework in order to really help us understand the capabilities, the opportunities we want to go solve for, and then how do you build your roadmaps? How do you retire out old technology? But it kind of runs the gamut of really building out a multi-year plan around the capabilities that we need to build in order to solve for a business need. I think the other part of it is really empowering your leaders. I'm a big people leader. I love the people that work within my organization and the heart and soul that they pour into their work. But a lot of that comes back to empowering those leaders. And I think product management allows us to do that. You almost become like a mini CEO of that capability. And you own the financial budget, you own the capabilities, you own the delivery, you own the support. So you really own the end to end. And I think that empowerment of our leaders has been tremendous. And yeah, we are acquiring a lot of talent, as time goes on. So if anyone's looking for, employment, please reach out. We are absolutely hiring. But I think the other beautiful thing that we were able to do is, we're, a company with 120 years of, history. And we had a lot of amazing associates that were already part of VF. And I think they just needed that re-energizing to really get excited about these new opportunities. And it's been amazing to watch the collaboration between the new and the existing employees come together and unify. I think I mentioned to you the other day, I sat on a stand-up call. We're in the height of our busiest time of the year. And so mission critical that systems work. And, to listen to 20 different teams come together, the collaboration, which I really foster, because I believe if you're not a collaborative team and you can't have open dialogue, then someone's going to drop the ball and you don't feel like you're part of it. But to watch them, just the handoffs and everyone kind of going through their respective areas and one raising the hand to say, hey, how can I help you on that? I think that's about teamwork is really, really important. And for me, that's probably one of the biggest qualities I try to drive is collaboration, teamwork. And obviously I really like people that are passionate and curious, because I think that takes us to the next level.
That's great. The number one thing that we can walk away from is implementing teamwork and that collaboration and cohesiveness amongst our teams. Now, to circle back a little bit, for folks who are new to this space, how is product management different from what you were doing before?
So I would say we had, like most companies, we had a mix of the way we organized work. And it's less about agile versus waterfall, but it's more about the way you empower your leaders and you really run that visioning. So starting with that opportunity statement, all the way down to when you build the detailed stories of how the work's actually going to get done, to that support structure once you launch. And I think what product management did for us is it just forced a lot more of that discipline, but I also think it breeds more creativity, because you allow your people to start at that higher level and then build down into the details. I think historically we were very project focused. The problem with project focus, it does work for very large enterprise programs that you have to run. Sometimes that just takes it's a little bit more black and white, and it's a much more traditional kind of implementation. But I think especially in the digital space, I think what this has done is it brings you closer to that consumer, because the consumer is at the core of all things that we do. And it brings that brand voice that represents the consumer into that product management kind of scrum team, as we call it. And it really forces us to understand what is the business opportunity of the pain points that we're trying to solve for. And it's through that dialogue that you start to use, CX and UX practices to really tease out what is it we're trying to fix or create or, invent, depending on what we're doing. And it's been really fascinating. So I think that mindset shift from just projects to this product management, it also puts technology in a very different place. You know, transparently, I think sometimes historically, this is many years ago, I think technology would sometimes get the back seat and just be a service provider. And you fast forward to today, I mean, we can't live in our business without, you know, digital and technology. I mean, we are the strategic enabler to a lot of things. So it's been amazing to watch the shift over the years.
Definitely makes all of us, all of our roles very important and at the center of most of the organizations we're a part of.
Yeah, I tell Mr. Rendell, our CEO, I'm like, we're at the center of the universe for everyone. I don't like that.
The world revolves around us, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that Laudrey commented, I want to work on that team. That's definitely something that resonates with me, being a part of a team that's really collaborative and embracing this digital transformation. Are there other aspects that you find important about culture overall? And can you talk a little bit about the culture at VFC?
Yeah. So I will say, I'll start with the culture at VFC. I think VF, when I joined, and I left a 24-year career. So this was a big change for me. Scary in many ways, but invigorating in so many positive ways. Super collaborative. You know, we tend to have less of the politics. People want to help out. You know, I think you take someone like me, city girl from Northeast, I have a lot of energy. So I also had to learn how to come into a company and maybe adjust a little bit in style. And I do a lot of listening. I had the luxury my first few months of being able to travel the globe and really get to meet amazing individuals, which helped me also be able to assess the situation, what we needed to tweak, and again, kind of start to change the way that our organization was viewed internally. We are a strategic enabler of most of our business. And I think for me, it was getting people to have the confidence to sit at the big boys table, right? And I shouldn't say big boys table, the big people table. And that was really, really important for me, just to change that mindset and really evolve that mindset as to what we brought to the table. You know, one of the other areas that I'm very passionate about is diversity. I am a big believer that you have to have diversity of thought. It could be race, it could be gender, it could be anything that you want it to be, different walks of life. I came from finance. I didn't come from a coding background. But what I love is when you walk into a room and not everyone looks the same or feels the same or talks the same. I think you just get richer content coming out of that, and the ideas that you generate. I don't know, it's more invigorating, it's more creative, and I think it pushes the envelope a lot more than if everyone was a coder and everyone was of the same race and gender, like it would be very boring, quite frankly. So I think for me, it's something that we're really pushing, and we're evolving a lot as an organization in general. We just got another great award, you know, for top women and executives in the company. So we're changing. Our 120-year legacy is evolving, and like all companies, is there more we can do? Absolutely. But Women Who Code, we're joining a few other organizations. We're going to do a lot more outreach. You know, I've said, you know, the first couple of years for me was really stabilizing and getting an amazing team of individuals who I'm so proud. And if any of them are watching, like they are my energy, my rock. And now it's about how do we continue to evolve as an organization? So that's going to be a big part of my focus on a go-forward basis.
That's amazing. I definitely always tell folks on my team, especially when they're newer, is that don't quiet your voice just because you think you're new. A lot of times that person who's like, can you explain to me why we are doing it this way? Or, you know, I saw this somewhere else, or I've, you know, brought this past experience to the table is a light bulb, and it just makes that solution that much better. So I definitely agree to the importance of diversity. Are there any key elements that you do or VFC does to increase diversity on all of the facets that we were talking about, right? Not just gender, background.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot more. You know, obviously we've got a chief diversity officer in-house, and there's a lot of outreach. I tend to also believe in a lot more organic approaches too as an individual. I do a lot of mentoring. Maybe it's not through formal channels, but tend to over-index on the reach out, especially for folks in the team and outside my organization. And sometimes, you know, I think I was saying the virtuals worked great. Like we haven't missed a beat, but the one thing I miss is those hallway conversations. You run into someone, you can ask how things are going a little bit differently. Now we do it through a text message or an email. But I think as a company, I can assure you that Steve, our CEO, is 1000% committed to further evolving the organization. You know, I'm also a female executive sitting on that senior team. There's a few of us sitting on that team, and I think that really starts to change the mindset. But as an organization for the digital technology group, which I run, yes, we are absolutely going to leverage some of these organizations. We want to do way more internships than we've done historically. In our Greensboro community, you know, outreach to some of the local colleges where there is more diversity in the system. So there's a lot more we can do. And I am going to be very open and admit, you know, I don't think we're there yet. I think we've got a long way to go. I also want to do that in a way that I don't want others to feel not included. So I'm a big person on inclusivity. So it's got to be encompassing of everyone, because you don't want to sacrifice one for the other. For me, there's plenty of opportunities. And as we hire, our lens is going to be towards a lot more diversity in that pipeline, just to kind of balance out the organization. And I think a lot of colleagues that I talk to in other companies, we're all in that same boat. So I think there's a lot of energy. This is the right time. And there are no more excuses. Like, we just have to do it now. So.
Right. Is there anything that excites you about the changes that are coming right now?
Yeah, I'm excited about everything. I mean, I think watching some of the folks on my team grow in the 2.5 years I've been there has been one of the biggest joys I get as a leader, just watching people grow. And I tend to throw people into things that they think they can't do, and I give them a lot of rope. And you know what? We're going to learn, but you don't learn unless you make mistakes. So I'm a big believer you have to make mistakes to learn. Really proud about that and excited about that. I think the work we're embarking on right now, I mean, there's so much exciting work happening in the digital space, in the data space, you know, the analytics, the data science, the AI, all of that. Like, that's a huge area of focus for us as well. And then also a lot of the work we're doing to move to cloud, and, you know, companies with our legacy, we do have more traditional infrastructure in-house, and now we're making a lot of those migrations. So I think it runs the gamut. It's the people I love to watch grow. And I'm always looking for that person to replace me, and that's not a bad thing. That's what we should be doing, grow the bench and look for someone that could take over. And then the whole technology side, you know, VF just made tremendous investments in this digital technology, which they've been doing for years, but this year was a really big year for us. And even as we look into next year, it's going to be even bigger. So a lot to do, and I have to keep my energy level very high because we got a lot to deliver. Next year is a big delivery year for us. So excited about that.
As someone who's been through digital transformation, I can resonate with that excitement. Any opportunity to come in with a company and you know, try and transform that legacy technology and figure out how you work with it, right? Because you can't just throw it all away.
Absolutely.
It's a working, running, breathing system. And figuring out how do you architect around that and bring in these new patterns is super exciting. I think for everyone in that organization. And the one thing I really liked that you just called out is providing opportunities that you don't necessarily think your team members will be successful in right away, right? And I think for folks listening, to flip that, and can you take yourself an opportunity that you might not be really ready for? Can you stretch yourself a little bit further? Because there's definitely a lot of growth when you are uncomfortable as someone who tends to shy away from discomfort, but, you know, recognizes every now and then you got to get out of your shell, and it allows for the quickest, hopefully most impactful growth.
Yeah, and I would say, I think especially as women, sometimes I think we tend to have a little bit more of that tendency. And at the end of the day, it's not about failing, it's about learning. And maybe you don't have all the answers. I can assure you, no one has all the answers, right? So we're all learning. I don't have all the answers, but you know what? I know that I can figure it out. As long as you build good teams, you figure it out. And maybe it won't be perfect day one, but by day 10, we'll be fine and we're ready to go. And I think you just got to keep that open mindset of no one's perfect. And if you're interested in something, I always say, just go for it. Like, what's the worst that happens? Maybe you don't get it. Maybe you get it. It takes you a little bit longer, but unless you stretch yourself, I think you don't grow as an individual.
I've always gone, no, why not? Let's just try it. And it's worked out so far. Exactly. It's definitely also important to have a leader like yourself who, you know, believes in the imperfections amongst people and our ability to grow. So pivoting a little bit into the big conversation of 2020, how has COVID impacted, I think you alluded a little bit, and its acceleration at VFC, but how has it impacted VFC? How's it impacted your work, being at home, you personally?
So maybe I'll start with something funny on the personal front. On the personal front, it's interesting, right? I was on the road every week for 2 years. I was traveling to one of our offices, so a lot of travel, and now you almost come to a standstill. So that's been a big change personally, from going from this crazy energy I needed to maintain to get on a plane every week and, you know, making my meals before I leave so everyone was fed while I was gone, to like this rat race I was in, to now being home and having a lot more time in some ways. But what I said the other day, I think the one thing we have to be careful for our, you know, associates and for ourselves is sometimes that home office environment means even longer days than you were working before. At least I find sometimes I feel more tired now than I did before with my crazy, insane travel schedule, because you actually never shut down. And I think one of the things that we've been talking a lot with my great partners in HR at VF is, how do we start to really help our associates? You know, we announced we're not going back until June next year. Hopefully that goes as planned, but even what does that mean at that point? What is the future of work? And there's a lot of work that my colleague is running right now, really interesting work to understand that office environment and dynamic. But then how do we get people to find the work-life balance? Because I think, yes, you're not traveling and you are home, and I can make many meals a day because my son doesn't stop eating all day. He's a teenager, but is that, you still tend to put the hours in. So I think that's my one worry, is burnout with our associates. So again, we're going to work on a lot of things around that, because I don't know what normal is going to be, even come June when we say we're going back to the office. Is it really full time? What does it look like? I don't think any of us know. So some aspect of this home work life is going to continue. So I think we have to help our associates with that. And I'm very passionate on that topic. From a technology perspective, I'll never forget, I flew home on a red eye because I tended to, because, you know, we're Denver based. I would do a red eye home on a Thursday night. I landed that Friday morning to get on a call, senior call, and we decided that Friday to send all associates home as of Monday, which meant we did not have 2-3 weeks, which we originally were talking about. We had a weekend. How do we get all of our associates able to work and home? And fortunately for us, we had been making investments over the last couple of years with some amazing technology like Zoom and other things that allowed us to really empower our associates to not miss a beat. Did we hit our hiccups? Of course, you always hit your hiccups. But I will say, overall, we had a very successful transition to home environment. Like, the technology isn't the issue. I think people miss the human connectivity a little bit more, but in terms of work getting done, again, I said we're in a very high delivery period going into next year. So we couldn't miss weeks of work. And, you know, again, a call out to my team and all those folks. I mean, they didn't miss a beat. We learned how to use video when video makes sense. And I have a pet peeve with video. I don't always like being on video, because sometimes I do want to cook a meal or I want to do something else, and you got to find a way to find that balance. So I'm not a big person that you have to be on video all day, but I do think some video is important, because it doesn't replace human, but it comes a little bit closer. So I think for us, it's been a really great transition. And I think the biggest thing, and I always find the positives in life, the silver lining for us is it accelerated our appreciation and desire for our transformation. Because I think even, you know, more traditional company, because of our legacy, you know, of being in the office, you had to be in the office to get your job done. Well, guess what? Everyone from the CEO down to everyone on the teams now is working at home. And you know what? We haven't missed a beat. I mean, the company's doing great and teams are growing and we're getting the work done. So I think it was a really great lesson. So maybe some folks that didn't have the same appreciation of technology. So it's been really good.
It's a great lesson, as you mentioned, for how we work and the importance of technology, right?
Yes.
If you were slower to adopting the technologies like Zoom or, you know, your remote networking systems, you probably might have been a little bit crippled at the beginning of this, right? So definitely great lessons learned. Last little thing before we wrap up with one item you'd like to leave with our community. You mentioned a little bit about the work-life balance during COVID. You have a son at home who's eating a lot. Is there any, I mean, I find it really important for especially women to hear other women's stories about being parents, balancing life as a soon to be expecting mom, demystifying some of those stereotypes, those norms that we've heard about traditionally, I think is really important. So I'd love to hear any stories or tips that you have from balancing that work-life balance mixture.
Yeah, the mixture, which is a really interesting salad these days.
Right.
I think it's about forgiving yourself. I think, you know what, things aren't going to go perfect every day, and you're not going to always be on, because you are, you know, especially for people that have small children at home, it's a lot more challenging. And, you know, with the whole going back to school, not going back to school, you know, it's hard. It's hard to be on. I think one thing we've said is, you know, we keep telling the folks on our team, especially some of the young moms, I'm like, do what you have to do. Like, if you can't work during the day because your child is awake, then maybe you do your work later in the day. And I think having that open mind, we have to have that. You know, one of the other things I said recently at a town hall that we did is I said, you know, everyone needs to find something that gives them that relax, whatever that may be, whether it's exercise or meditation. I make myself exercise, but definitely not my relax. I do it because I just have to do it. But, you know, whatever it is that gives you that peace of mind or a break from the rat race, I think you have to find that. And you have to find ways to forgive yourself, because you're not always going to be on it. It's not always going to be perfect. And I think we tend to women tend to beat ourselves up a little bit more, and a lot falls on us. And it's no offense to other, you know, genders. It's just, we tend to take the brunt of it. And I think you just got to find ways to find that balance and find time for yourself, because if you don't take care of yourself, then you can't take care of anything else. So I think that's a really, really important thing. And I think this work-life balance, we have more work to do as leaders to figure out how do we ensure people actually take those words literally. Because I was watching that first month or so, what people were logging and when they were on the phone or respond, I'm like, you're going to burn out, right? And I think that's what we can't have. So I think we have a lot of work to do. And I think we as leaders have to really push that message and lead by example. I've had to reprimand a couple of my colleagues. I'm like, well, if you're doing that, then they're going to think that they have to do that. So you have to, I think sometimes it's that reminder. We have to just keep ourselves and each other honest. And I think we have I have great colleagues. So we can banter a little bit and keep ourselves honest, because we have to set that example and that tone for everyone else in the organization. So.
And it's inspiring to see, you know, executives like yourself being able to find that balance and still, you know, be successful in industry.
And everyone should buy a pair of AirPods. Not that I'm advertising for Apple, but for me, I'm a multitasker. So I do when see, you need them. And I don't always have to be on video. Like I mentioned, I don't ask anyone to do that, but you can do other things. So you're not doing it at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. And I think that's really important too. So those are my little things that I do, that I mute a lot on my phone so I can go maybe throw a load of laundry in, and, you know, I'm human too. So we all have to do those things.
I love it. I love it. Final question for our session today, though I would prefer that it didn't end, because I could ask you 1,000,001 questions. And I think the audience watching as well is equally as engaged. But is there one thing that you would like to leave with our Women Who Code community?
I would just say, believe in yourself, push yourself as hard as you can. And the one other thing that I will say as a working mom that I think we don't talk enough about in society, for those of you that are, you know, working and want a career and want a family, you know, don't think of everything as linear. You know, when I wanted to have a family, I did take a step back in my career at that point, because things didn't go as planned, and it took me a lot longer, and it was a very stressful point in time. And I did take a step back in my career, and forgive yourself. If that's what you want to do, it's okay to do that. Like, you have your whole life to have an amazing career, and it doesn't have to happen right in that moment. And I think sometimes we put too much pressure on ourselves, but I think I'm living proof that I did do that. And then I jumped back in at the right point in my life when it made sense. And I've had an amazing career since. And I do find ways to do what I need to do for my family and for myself. And I think the one thing I have to work on a lot more is more time for myself of exercising, because as I mentioned, I don't love it, but it's important for your health and all of that. But again, don't beat yourself up. Nothing has to be linear in life. Let things play out as they do, but just have confidence in yourself. Everything's going to work out in the long run, even if it doesn't follow a normal path And I don't even know what normal means, but people use that a lot. Throw that out the window. So.
Words to live by. I love that. Nothing is linear, and throw it out the window.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for your time today, Velia. Again, I knew this conversation was going to be super informative and inspirational. Hopefully all of you all listening in and dialing in today enjoyed our conversation as much as I did. We are looking forward to future events with VFC and hopefully to see you at our in-person 2021
exactly.
Connect conferences.
And congratulations to you on to soon be a mom. And I look forward again. If anyone's looking for employment, send resumes. We are absolutely hiring. And thank you again for the opportunity. It was really nice to be here with you and with you all virtually. So thank you.
All right, everyone. Have a fabulous Friday. Enjoy the rest of the Connect conference. And I will be going live in just a few hours later with another engineer. Have a fabulous Friday.
Thank you. Bye-bye.